Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I am joined by Vicky Shilling. So you may recognize her from a previous podcast, but Vicky's had a little bit of a change in what she does now. So she's now a self-belief coach. She's also an author since she was last on the podcast as well. So first off, I just want to say welcome back to the podcast. Vicky, how are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me back. Very honoured.
Yeah. So Vicky, can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do? Because they might have not heard the last episode, and obviously things have changed a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I am a business coach, and more recently in the last year, 18 months, I am really focused on helping people with their self-belief, which is overcoming their self-doubt, which often shows up as procrastination, total paralysis, feeling overwhelmed, that inner critic voice that goes on in our head, all of these different ways that we talk ourselves out of doing the practical stuff that we know that he's doing, the marketing, the being visible, the promoting what we're doing, and just getting inside the kind of mindset and the stories. And it's interesting you mentioned the book as well. That was very much what I wrote the book and published the book for in 2022. Was there's lots of people that can give you lots of practical advice on what to write on your website and how to use social media, and that's changing all the time. But again, it was the mindsets for me of what are the stories, what are the beliefs that we are telling ourselves underneath all of those practical tips and advice. What's going on? What are the stories that we're telling ourselves, and how can we retrain them? How can we coach them to be a bit more supportive? So I have done that for the last 4 or 5 years with mostly health and wellness practitioners. Most of my clients are nutritionists, health coaches, yoga teachers, personal trainers, people in this space. And really helping them with getting that business bit set up, and now really focusing in on how are you thinking and feeling about taking action to build your business.
So would you say when you were writing the book, that kind of changed your own mindset in what you're working with people, or was that something you kind of always had an underlying feeling about when you were doing the business coaching?
Yeah, it's really interesting you asked that. I think at the time I knew that that's what I wanted to write the book about, because it would have it had the most longevity. It was the most repeatable thing that I was saying to everybody. All of these little things of, you need to reframe how you're thinking about this, or can we think about this in a different way, or this story is going to hold you back and you're not going to be able to move forward with your business if you don't change that. So that's why I wrote the book, was to kind of put down in one place all the things that I realized I was saying on repeat to lots of different clients and people in different spaces and communities and groups that I was running. And actually what's been really nice training in the self-belief coaching and coming back around to it now is realizing that there has been that synergy. I have, as much as I have absolutely dished out lots of practical tips, and I still love talking about all that stuff. How do you put together a signature offer? What's the automation you need on your emails? What is working right now on Instagram? All of those things. The consistent theme that I have always presented in my courses and in my training is and here's what your brain is going to tell you. Here is what your mind is going to be telling you. Here is how you are going to stop yourself doing the thing that I just told you to do. So really, for me, it's like niching down and being really specific about that being the area I want to help people with, because I think they can get lots of amazing practical tips from lots of people out there. It's how do I actually implement it and do it?
Yeah, it's so funny you saying that. You're like, here's what your brain will tell you, is like the amount of times I've heard that. Just for anyone who doesn't know, Vicky has a business group, and I've been in that, and like the amount of times we hear this, and it's so true. Like, it's not like it's repetitive. You're like, yes, damn, I should listen to that.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I can see you, I know what's happening, and that's really the key thing. It's a key in marketing, but also key for me when I'm producing things and creating trainings and courses, is I want to be in your head. I want to see already, I know already what it is that you're going to tell me, why you can't do it and why this isn't going to work for you, and we need to have a little chat about that.
Yeah. So in that kind of change, obviously you've got to change how your business runs, different things to do, like a lot of big decisions. What was the process that led you to make that decision, and how did you find making that decision and basically changing everything in a way?
Yeah. I think when I actually look at it and the timings, I think partly it was a little bit hormonal, because I think the change really started when I fell pregnant with my second child. And it was this moment of realizing, obviously going through and the exhaustion and tiredness of pregnancy anyway, and looking differently at my business and realizing, okay, business and my life are going to change having a second child, but also just feeling at that point, I'm not sure what I'm doing right now is it. I'm not sure this is exactly what I want to be doing or should be doing or will be doing going forward. I think there's a change incoming. Like everything that I don't do anything very quickly. There's lots of people I am business besties with who are very quick. When they make a decision, that's it. They've done it immediately. I take a lot longer to make these kind of decisions. So it's definitely been over a period of 18 months, I would say, coming to that realization of I'm not standing 100% behind what I am selling right now, or I just don't feel this is the best way I can help people. Something is shifting and changing. And the process has been painful. It's been lots of introspection, lots of, really looking at where I'm holding myself back and, my own self-doubts, and really uncomfortable things, obviously cutting off income streams and consistent products and things that have sold, really well in the past, to make space for new things, new ideas, new offers, trying to have that full trust and full belief that the next version, the next iteration is going to be even better, even bigger, even more impactful. But yeah, that's very, very tricky, particularly doing it through just typically the way that I have done it, through a pregnancy, doing it all postpartum as well, and kind of finally feel like I'm emerging, just coming, my son's 9 months at the point we're recording this, coming out the other side of, okay, I've made some big announcements, I've made some big decisions, I'm at a really scary precipice of, is this going to work? And really having to use my own self-belief tools quite a lot to feel grounded and assured that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like, obviously you're going to have to put yourself, as you said, your own self-belief tools. Speaking, actually, you mentioned with pregnancy, that's another big thing that's changed since you were last on the podcast, because you had no kids, I think, last time. Now you have two. What has it been like the whole process of becoming a mother, and also on top of that, running your own business? Because it's not like you get a 6-9 month maternity leave. It's you. I think I've seen you gone for maybe 4 weeks at a time. Yeah. It's like Vicky's like, I'm on maternity leave, and she's like, I'm back. I'm like, what?
Here she is, surprise. What is that like when you work for yourself and you have kids and there's not really any maternity? The word that popped into my mind when you were asking that question was horrendous. It's hard work, I'm not going to lie, because my business, the way I have it set up, I don't have lots of employees. I don't want a business like that. And so a lot of it is reliant on me. Naturally, when I am quieter, less visible, not promoting and talking about what I do, not able to take on, clients and fill programs, my income is, affected by that. So it's tough to do that. I actually do think, and I've talked to a couple of other mum business owners about this, I do think your children do affect your self-belief. I do think just because you're stretched so much, your role and who you are in the world and what, where you should be putting your time and your energy, it makes you question a lot of things, even more so than you might have done, I might have done without children, I think. So, it really pushes you to go, like, why are you doing this? And is this what you want to be doing? And is this the easiest way to make money, or the best way to do it and raise your family? Or is there another route that you want to take? So I think it's definitely challenged me a lot. Like I say, I haven't been able to be in a position where I've been able to take a huge amount of time off, but I have certainly tried to wind down, not do launches, not take on one-to-one clients while I've been, coming towards the end of pregnancies and in the first few months. But yeah, you do have to plan, and you do have to realize that there is that kind of slowing down moment and not lose the faith in all of that. that you can emerge like a phoenix from the flames afterwards, and that it will be okay on the other side. But that sometimes in the moment and the middle of the night when a baby's screaming, that's quite hard to believe.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to pull back from the business? Obviously, I'm not saying you don't want to spend time with your children, but like, kind of like, do you feel like sometimes when you are, and it's what you should be doing, but you're like, I should be working on the business, but no, I need to look after my tiny human now.
Yeah, it's really funny you joke about this, and I think everyone is so different. And I try not to be judgmental of anyone or myself about this. I like my children, but I do not want to spend all of my time with my children. I know I am a better human, I'm a better mother, I'm a better partner, I'm just generally better if I have my work in my life, it work in any way, shape or form, that I do something else. I know for some women parents, they love the parenting role, they don't need anything else in their life, that is their, they're happy to do that 100%. So I do find it difficult to pull away from work because I really enjoy it, and I actually think it enhances my life and their experience of me. I think I'm, brighter and better for it when I have it in my life. It is just finding that balance of getting the work done when I can. I think a lot of people say when they become parents, you try and get work done in much smaller windows, you're much more concentrated, there's less procrastinating. I mean, I still procrastinate, don't worry, there's still self-doubt there, but there is a bit more of a, no, come on, you've only got an hour here, or you've only got 2 hours here, or you've got some time to yourself, you've really got to use it. So yeah, everyone's different, but personally for me, I like time away from my children, and I definitely need the work to feel the most me I possibly can.
I think it's really important you said that as well, because I think, especially with the likes of social media, there's almost like you should be like, I need to be with my children all the time. I need to be the perfect mom, dad, whatever parent you want to be. And to have someone saying like, well, I actually do like, doing other things, because I feel like if I was a parent, I would be that type of person as well. So yeah, like it's really good of you to say that, I think, because I think a lot of people who maybe feel like they're not doing enough to parent, having someone say, no, I actually need to do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like permission slip to do it your way. I think a lot of people, I've been thinking about the kind of the bigger why as well that people have, why are you doing this? And a lot of people say, oh, I run my own business so I can spend more time with my children. And it's really funny because for me, that is not the case. Like, I run my own business because I am a happy human. And actually, if I get any more time off, I won't be spending any more time with them. I need to. I'll be going to do some more nice things for myself. Things that fill me up. I spend plenty of time with them. I'm not neglectful of them. We actually don't have, a huge amount of family around us, so I am with them a lot. But I definitely need, and yeah, big fat permission slip for anyone else that's thinking that as well. Like, it's really important for me to have that balance of work in there as well.
I think as well, as you're on your own business, you kind of mostly do it from at home, so you're kind of still around them all the time anyway, so it's not like I know some people will look at it this way, she's like, she can't wait to abandon her children to go to, but like they're probably in the next room.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beautiful thing, obviously, I don't want loads more time with them and to, just have a business that I only spend an hour a week on. But what I do have is the thing that people do say, that flexibility. If my daughter has a Christmas play, I can go. I don't need to ask a boss. If I want to take a holiday, I can book it anytime. If my son is sick and the creche calls, I'm going to be able to be there in a heartbeat. All of those things. I'm not going to have to feel guilty. I'm not going to have to ask anyone. I'm the boss. I get to decide that. So there is that lovely part of it, that they know I am always available and there for them, and I get to choose that in my work.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. It's a lot more flexibility than a lot of people have. One thing I thought was interesting as well that you were saying is that you have like kind of smallish business, the majority of stuff's on you have a very few number of staff, but you don't want it to be any bigger. How do you find that, like, keeping the business at a certain level? Because I think it's another thing, like we're saying with the parenting, with this, it's like, well, if you have a business, you want to be like, a multi-million person with 10 million staff and blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's like, wait, no, I don't want to. And people are like, huh?
Yeah, I think that's it. And especially I used to use the word entrepreneur quite a lot. And I think a lot of people in my audience, and even me to a certain extent, don't really identify with an entrepreneur in the same sense, like you say, of a building that's got your name or your brand on it and loads of staff in an office somewhere. Most of us, I would say, most of the people in my audience certainly don't aspire to that. We want what's called a lifestyle business. We want a business that suits our lifestyle, that pays for our lifestyle, pays for the things we want, the holidays we want, the home that we want to live in, the luxuries and the essentials that we want in our life. But we don't need or want it to scale bigger than that. It is quite tricky because I remember listening to a podcast with other business owners saying, really, you're kind of looking at somewhere between 100 and 250 turnover. And you do need some people, like, in order to earn something where we're not all, on the breadline and really scraping the barrel, we need to earn a certain amount of money, and that does require, I think, a small team of people. I do have a virtual assistant, I do have an accountant, I have people I can call on to help support my groups or help me with my website or my graphic design or whatever it is. But I don't want to scale it to a point where it feels like a burden. I don't want to feel like I am, for example, taking the maternity leave or taking holiday. I don't want to feel like other people are reliant on me to produce all of that for their own livelihoods as well. So yes, that does mean there's more on me, but that is my choice. And again, remember, I get to do this rather than I have to do this. Like, that is entirely my choice. I could, if I wanted, scale it up and get lots of people in. That just isn't the business I'm trying to build.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, like, I get to, and it's that like mindset shift of, this is like, it is your choice. Like, no one forces you to do this, really. When it comes to, like, was there a point in the business where you went, this is as far as I wanted to go? Or was it like always when you started, you were like, I want to keep this not as small as possible, basically at a level that I'm happy with, you know what I mean? Where I can get the turnover I want and not have to, not have to, but you know what I mean? Not go any further, in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's human nature that we never seem to really reach that point. There's that gratitude thing of, like, it's very hard in the moment to be grateful and to see what you have, because you're always looking for, but I haven't got this and I haven't got that. And my income slowly increased, and I hit turnovers in a couple of years of about 120, 130 grand. This last year, it was less than that. And this year, I probably, honestly, turning over probably only around 40 grand. And again, that has been primarily driven by my children and, having to take time off. I think if the children hadn't come and I hadn't been forced to do that, I wonder if I would have got, and again, it's not that I resent them, like, it was entirely my choice. It was pregnancy, it was our decision. But I do wonder if I would have reached a different level in the business where it would have felt like I'd reached this is a really good place. I'm turning over what I want. I'm taking home what I want, which is the most important thing. Turnover doesn't matter. It's take home pay that matters. And I've always been very transparent about that in my communication with you guys in the community and with, my audience as well. I wonder if that would have been different. What has happened because of the maternity leaves is it has been more rocky and variable than that. And I think now with the pivot in the business, that's naturally had an impact as well. So have I reached, I don't think I have yet reached the point that I'm like, sweet, I'm in this really lovely sweet spot, I'm taking home what I want, the team's great, the business is serving me, but I'm learning all the time, and I do think, I look back and think, God, I wish I was a bit more grateful, and I wish I'd realized, what I had really built in those previous years. And I'm hoping going forward that I will remember that when things, are back on the up again. But it is, unless you've got a really good thorough gratitude practice, I think it's hard, because we're always looking for the next thing all the time. I think I need to work on that as well, to say, look what you have done, look what you do have. It's brilliant where you are right now, and it can still grow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, you are pivoting, so it's going to be a bit of time to go up. Do you think it's easier to handle the fact that you've had a drop in income because you've had the children? Do you know what I mean? as in like if you're having, obviously it can be up and down as a business, no one ever, like the growth is never linear, but if you hit like that kind of stumbling block, I say in air quotes, or you know, because you're like, well, I did have to take this time, do you think it's easier to kind of make peace with that in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. I think what has happened, particularly in the coaching industry, is we all had several very good years under COVID because people had more time on their hands, they were more online, they were more willing to invest in things. We are coming now into a season where, quite rightly, people are more discerning, they have less disposable income, they are questioning more the kind of programs and coaches that they are working with, and we as service providers have to be even more savvy about how we market ourselves and actually delivering things that actually deliver, you know, creating programs, courses, one-to-one packages that actually help people and that we get good, you know, rave results and you know, happy client testimonials and things out of the back of, which I 100% think is brilliant. And that for me has correlated with having 2 pregnancies, you know, maternity leaves, and realizing I'm pivoting. So like I feel like it's a triple layer sandwich of maternity leaves, pivoting the business and the market and what is required, and that's quite tough to have to keep juggling. And like you say, to be able to say which bits are on me and which bits are just, you know, just the way it is. So yeah, it does make it easier to say, look, and people do say that to me. They have said that to me this year. I was on a retreat, actually a business retreat, and I was kind of explaining my situation and, you know, this kind of real pivot point in the business. And one of the girls was like, and you have a baby, like, and you know, you've had a baby this year and you've raised him and you know, he's still alive and he's thriving. And, you know, that in and of itself for many, many women, no judgment at all, is plenty enough for 1 year. Thanks very much. So yeah, trying to give myself a bit of grace over that. Yeah, does help.
Yeah, it's good the way I said that as well. It's plenty enough, because yeah, people have different thresholds of what they can handle or even what they want to handle. And I think it's really important to say, like, again, it's okay. If that's all you want to do, you do that. You don't need to. And it's that pressure. Like, it can be on the flip side. Someone who's just been a mom can be like, I see all these people doing stuff and being a mom.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't do it to shame anybody else. It's because this is me. This is just how I operate. Running your own business, it doesn't ever go quiet. You can't ever completely stop and disappear. It's not like if I work for Meta and I can take a year on maternity leave, get paid, you know, coo and look into the eyes of my baby for a year and then pop back to the job in a year's time. Like, it literally doesn't work like that. So, and this is just how I'm wired. I like this. It's not that anybody else is doing it wrong. They're absolutely doing what's right for them. Hopefully they are. If it is triggering them, then maybe there's some exploration or some curiosity about why. But I appreciate, and again, like, knowing my self-doubt archetype, knowing that, you know, a lot of my background is, you know, those feelings of, you know, not being enough and not working hard enough, you know. So unfortunately, the way my self-doubt shows up is overworking. A lot of people are like, just relax, you know, just stop doing it. I'm like, no, I have to keep proving, you know, I have to keep working. So that's not necessarily always a healthy way of it showing up. I know it is applauded by society and people generally, but to just say to anybody listening, you know, there is other ways to realize what might be going on here as well, and that's work for me to do on that. Like, when I can relax and take time off, that's really important as well.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, I would love to have that self-doubt because I work. What are the biggest things you see show up in people actually when it comes to their self-doubt?
Yeah, so there's kind of 4 main archetypes really, and for anyone that's interested, the coach training I did was with Sass Petherick, who is like the queen of self-doubt coaching. So maybe we can put in the show note links the link to her archetype test, because the way I've been trained to see self-doubt is it shows up in kind of 4 different ways. One is a critic, you know, that inner critic that we're kind of classically trained to spot. You know, the way I just described, work harder, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you need to work more. So that's one way that self-doubt can manifest itself. One other way is like a bystander, it's wait. You can't do it yet because you need a bit more training, or it needs to be the perfect time, or you don't have quite enough information yet. So sometimes self-doubt looks like breathing or pausing or, you know, kind of passive behaviors instead, because the self-doubt is saying, wait. Another way that it will show up is that overwhelm. Just don't bother. Like, it's just too much. Just, you know, you're never going to be able to master this. It's too much work. It's, you know, just don't even go there. Don't even bother. Don't even try. It's not worth it. So that's how it can manifest itself. And the fourth type is kind of around the more people pleasing side of it, like to be liked and to try and just do what everybody else wants all the time. Like, how can I be loved more? How can I be appreciated more? You know, how can I get more, you know, endorsement and pats on the back and well done, rather than actually doing what you want to do and what needs to be done for your own goals. So yeah, self-doubt largely kind of shows up in one of those four ways, and it shows up as procrastinating, the big P's: procrastinating, perfectionism, paralysis, passive behaviors, you know, scrolling, people pleasing, all of those kind of things. If you think about those P's that might creep into your life, that's where self-doubt's showing up.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of describing it. And I say there's plenty of people going, oh shit, please.
I feel seen.
Yes, always feeling seen. So as well, just kind of going on, like, you know, obviously we were talking about you had to make some decisions in your business and changing. One of those things was, say, closing down your group membership, okay? Which actually, my little coffee cup might just start now. Just incidentally, I didn't plan this, but the reason I want to ask about that is obviously that's like making that decision is going to be hard, because people are going to be, like I said, like that people pleasing element, disappointed. Maybe they're finding it really helpful, that kind of thing. What was it like making that decision? And then, you know, obviously in this scenario, I feel a little bit more selfish, like it's what's good for you, it's not what's good for them. But okay, how did you find making that decision? How long did it take to make that decision? And then how did it feel making that announcement?
Yeah. So the process has been horrific, because obviously all of the community that I've built there, that's, you know, people who have supported me and I have supported them, you know, in this lovely collaboration for years. I think the realization came at the beginning of the year. And it's fun. It's really interesting for me now. We're recording this towards the end of 2024, and I still have on my desktop, like I'd recommend to everyone, my goals for the year. And it is quite hilarious. And I will share, you know, what those goals are and how far away I am really, and how much has changed this year. Because one of my goals was, you know, to give the Just Start Now community a bit of a revamp, you know, a bit of a refresh, you know, get back selling it again in September when I came back from maternity leave. And I joined a program to kind of be taught, I suppose, effectively, like, how can I improve this? How can I get better results in this group program? What can I do? And the biggest learner, and the kind of, you know, just module one, if you're trying to teach literally everything in your program, please stop. Like that's just not, it's not possible. It's not advised, and you're not going to be able to help everybody get amazing results all the time. So it was a real like killer blow, like, oh crap. Okay, so module one is like, don't do what I have already created. I spent the next 6 months, as well as birthing and growing a human, was trying to work out how I could remodel the group in some way that would be more honed down and more, you know, have some more clear outcomes, and not try and spread myself as thin, because, you know, from the group, I try and cover absolutely everything, all the different business elements. And that is lovely, because people like that it's a kind of library, it's a constant resource. They can keep, you know, coming back and dipping into the bits that they need. But for me as a provider, it's very hard to, you know, deliver all of that and be up to speed on latest information on social media, latest information on, you know, search engine optimization, latest thinking in pricing and, you know, programs and offers and things. And it doesn't facilitate people in the group all getting a great outcome, and that's not to say people in the group don't get great outcomes, but it's harder for them to see, oh, I joined this program, I did these steps, and then I got this at the end of it. So I tried for 6 months to 8 months to make it work, and I eventually came to a decision. I can't really remember, I think it just kind of, you know, landed in my head, was like, is the best thing to do to just close it down.
Mhm.
And just sat with that for a long time, for a couple of months, and was like, I think it is. I think the best way I can help people, even the people that are in the community now, is to close this down and to start something fresh, to start something. I still don't know exactly what that looks like, but to start something else that is clearer and more honed down and feels more aligned with what I want to help people with going forward. So it was really difficult. It took a very long time, several months. And when I made the announcement, we kind of scheduled it all, Bex and I, like I talked to Bex about it. She was like, oh, that was not what that was my VA, which was not what I was expecting you to say at all. So I know it came out of the blue for her. And we scheduled it and it went out, and yeah, everyone was just so kind, supportive and understanding. It's been lovely for people to say, it's been nice kind of role modeling of how you can pivot your business, how you can change things. You know, I'm still in the raw process of doing it. I will eventually be at a point where I'm going to be sharing, you know, what it's felt like, a little bit like we're doing on this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, what does it actually feel like to go through that, and what have I had to do mentally, gymnastically in my brain to get through it. But yeah, it's been tough. It did feel like a relief in some ways. I have given everyone the 6 months notice, so it's not gone. It wasn't like overnight, but it has felt like I can start to see a bit of space and what comes next for me, which before, particularly with the 2 children, add on, you know, a group that I just couldn't work out how to make it better. It feels more spacious now, which I think is a good place to be in mentally for a business.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Funny enough, actually, when you announced that, I was like, I'm kind of not surprised. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that you weren't like putting effort into it or anything like that. It's not. I just kind of like, it seemed in my head kind of like, you're doing this pivot. It made sense.
Yeah. And
so
I
like,
think,
it's not that like I was like upset or anything. I was like, oh damn, that's gone. But also I was like, yeah, no, it kind of makes sense, you know?
yeah, and that's so kind and understanding from your perspective. I mean, some people did say to me, oh yeah, I did wonder how you were trying to do everything. And I was like, that isn't the reason. I'm not doing this because I've had a second child and I just don't have the energy for it anymore. I have more than enough energy. It's just what I want to channel that energy into now and make sure that's as impactful as I possibly can. And I just couldn't see a way to do it with the group as it existed. So I'm just going to create something new. And yeah, I'm excited. And so many people have said, like, whatever it is, you know, I'm looking forward to whatever the next iteration is. So that's been really great and supportive.
Yeah, I think the thing is, because it's aligning more with where you're going and what you're doing. I think that's probably why people are like, yeah, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, not in a, maybe they were surprised and shocked, but they're kind of like, yeah, of course I want to get involved because I can see where you're going. And the self-belief thing, like, it's literally every post in that group.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. That's it. Like, if the question you're asking isn't actually, you know, how do I make Instagram do this, or why is no one opening my emails, you know, what practical thing? It's not that. It's so much more underneath it. And I think also to be able to show to people, I know a lot of people have a fear about pivoting, about changing, about evolving, about you know, changing what we do or what our message is, and really trying to demonstrate that that is okay, that we are humans, that I'm not being flaky. Hopefully I'm not coming across as flaky or inconsistent or unreliable, which I think a lot of us worry, like, oh, if I, you know, start talking about this now, everyone's going to think that, you know, they can't rely on me or that they don't trust me anymore. It's not. It's a simple, even if we're humans, we're not AI, we're not robots. We do evolve, we learn things, we gain greater understanding, we get more interested in certain things, and the business, that's the joy, isn't it? The business comes with us because it gets to. I get to create the business that comes with me.
Yeah, I think as well though, like, as like, obviously I've followed you for years, been in the group for a couple of years as well. I can see why it went that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe someone who's new to your platform might be like, Jesus, that's weird. But like, if you're around, you're kind of like, well, yeah, this is like, literally you watch that group, you're like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and it's like, some of the times, and I know it's just self-belief, sometimes I see people going, I'm terrible at this. And I'm like, well, fucking go learn.
Yeah.
The only way to get better is spend time on it.
And, you know, I will have written back to them and said, can we just drop the phrase, I'm terrible at tech, or I'm terrible at writing, or I can't do this? Could we maybe change it to, I'm learning all the time. I'm improving all the time. You know, every day I show up and do a bit of tech, I get a little bit better, or I get to do this rather than I have to do this. Like constantly, like you say, it's actually never the actual technical problem or the practical problem. It's how you're approaching it and how you're thinking about it. And that has, again, that's the joy of the training that I've done. That has come from somewhere. There's a reason you hold that belief in that story. Let's look at it. Let's throw bags of compassion at it. And now let's look at a way forward, because it's not going to help you and serve you if you keep thinking and saying that to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, not like I never reply to that to people. Sometimes people will say that to me, like, you're so good at this, I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but I've spent hours and hours learning how to do this.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I'm good at it.
Yeah. And I find parenting, that is what I now say to my daughter. Hilarious that she now repeats it back to me. I don't say, oh, wow, you're really good at that. You know, if she's done a picture or she's, you know, swinging on a swing or whatever, I say, wow, you must have practiced really hard at that to get good. And actually, my nephew was staying over with us over midterm, and he said, oh, I can't do that about something. And my daughter looked at him and said, you just need to practice. So she's able to do it at age 3 because I'm trying to instill that in her. Yeah. I definitely, again, from childhood and through schooling, was told, oh, you're just innately good at things. And actually then when failure happens and when stuff doesn't work out, I wasn't able, and, you know, I struggled with that and how that happens, and it shows up in my business. I need to foster in her a growth mindset of, I can do anything. I just need to apply myself. I just need to practice. I need to keep trying.
Yeah. Like I've even tried to apply that as well, in the sense of like, so I've started playing rugby recently and I'm awful at it, right? But the thing is, people will be like, oh, and you must be really good because you're really fit. And I was like, no, I'm terrible. But I've never played rugby before. So how can I expect to be good? Yeah. Like, and that's my mindset. Like, I'm awful at it, but of course I'm awful at it. I've never played it before.
Yeah. And that's great that you can just embrace that. And I try and say that, like, to everybody. You hear me say that in the group. Like, no one was born knowing how to do this stuff. No one woke up and was like, I just know how to write a whole website, or I just know, how to use social media and create a reel video. Like, we all had to figure it out and learn it. And it's the ones that stick at it and keep trying that are still here and succeed in it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's just remember, you are probably shit at it, but you haven't spent enough time doing it.
That's the only difference between you and someone that's better at it. They just spend a bit more time. I think the lovely the thing I remember there is Malcolm Gladwell. You know, his book Outliers. He talks about that thing. If you do anything for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it. And actually, my daughter knows the word expert. Like, I'm an expert at it. And I do really believe that idea. Like, he uses Steve Jobs and Bill Gates as examples. They had access to computers at a very young age. They, you know, turned up in these labs and universities and just spent hours at them. That's why they got good with them. And that's what we all have to become, you know, like, willing to be really crap at something, and just think that is okay. That's just part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And enjoy it as well. That's one thing I say. Like, it's not a chore. Like, I spend a lot of time playing with AI recently and learning how to use it, and it's so much fun stuff we can do. Like, it's not like, ooh, this is terrifying, this is scary. It's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm at, but let's see how I can manipulate this and make it work. And there's so much stuff you can do. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like, it's a curiosity, isn't it? Rather than like that fixed mindset, it's just, can I be curious and open to this? Like, what will happen on the other side of this? We might not always get what we expect. Certainly the case with AI, when you and I have been talking about what images it can produce.
That was so disappointing.
Disappointing. But actually just being curious and open to, where could this go? What could I learn? What might happen? Even just applying a tiny bit of time. One of the other members in the group this week was saying to me, she remembers me saying, can you just spend 10 minutes doing it? Because she's like, as soon as I have that attitude, that Vicky reminder of, I'm just going to try it for 10 minutes, she's like, suddenly an hour and a half has gone past and I've actually really enjoyed it and I've given something a go and I've got better. But I had to force myself to sit down initially and say, like, 10-minute timer, can I just get started with it?
Yeah, it goes back to the whole name of your thing, just start now.
Yeah.
And literally, like you said, that, like, sometimes you're in that freeze and you're like, okay, look, just go for it. And then you've so much done, you're like, grand, I feel so much better about myself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the power of just starting. But where this work has come in is, if you can't just start, what is going on underneath it? And that's the bit that I am looking forward to spending the next few years in interrogating with people.
That's really cool. What do you think? What's the biggest mindset blocks you've found working with like I think we normally refer to them as solopreneurs because you don't use the entrepreneur.
Yes, exactly. The people that don't want their name on the building but do want to work for themselves. The biggest mindset blocks that I see are of the ones that really I've covered in the book. I think big ones are around money and stories around work needs to be difficult and hard. Money is hard to hold and to earn, and that is really not a great energy to be in when we are needing to price ourselves and invite people in and, you know, get paid for what we're doing. I think also a lot of that kind of instant gratification idea of it's not working immediately, a bit like we were saying there around, you know, needing to be a bit crap at something and give it some time. I think there is a belief that if it's not working immediately, you're doing something wrong. You know, that you've seen other people and immediately they just did this one thing and their video went viral, or they suddenly got fully booked in 90 days or whatever it is, and that you're inherently wrong. You're not. It's perfectly normal that most of us are, you know, putting in the work, doing the slog, figuring stuff out, and that it takes a bit more time. And that actually, someone else was saying recently, they'd heard another business owner saying the work you're doing now, you know, will pay off in 2 months' time. And I think sometimes it's even longer than that, but we have to keep showing up and holding that faith and that belief. So yeah, kind of shifting away from that idea that we're doing something wrong if it doesn't immediately get results. And other mindset block, I would say most commonly that I see with people is a lot of the fear of judgment, a lot of, if I do this, so and so will have an opinion. And sometimes it's like people know who that is. Sometimes it's people back in their village or a member of their family, or, you know, even their partner or something, you know, that they will have an opinion about me pricing myself or putting my website or getting my photos done or whatever it is. Or sometimes it's the fear of judgment just from strangers on the internet, you know, that can feel very, very scary. So really helping people to try and reframe that as well, that actually those people are not our ideal customers. They are not people that we worried about their opinion. We're not asking them for advice, so we're not taking on board their judgment. If they even are judging us, sometimes it's more just in our heads that we've pretended, or we've made a story that those people are judging us when actually they're not. And really focusing back in on what do you want to do, like you say, like enjoying the process, taking the steps, and focusing on people you are trying to help and what they see of you instead.
Yeah, I think actually for me anyway, it's worse. The judgment idea is for people I know than people I don't know, because I don't care if some random on the internet comments me and telling me I'm wrong or someone sees it, but it's by people I know. I'm like more worried about telling them what I do.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, and people ask me about the difference between the UK and Ireland as well. I think there's a stronger sense in Ireland of you having notions, you know, this idea that the people back at home will think you have notions if you put up a website, say you charge X amount, you know, dare to go on the radio, or, you know, get yourself in a magazine, or all these other things which we know successful business owners do. They promote themselves, they charge good money, you know, they get paid, they do all of these things. And you're right, like I think there is a bit of that, or who's she, you know, what
Begrudgery.
Yeah, exactly, begrudgery and notions. And again, it's reframing that, realizing that sometimes comes from a place of love, sometimes comes from a place of, you know, envy and discomfort for them that you're doing something and putting yourself out there, and perhaps they haven't been able to or don't have the courage to do what you're doing. So we can't take on that energy because it's very draining and very paralyzing.
But like it's really funny as well when you think about it, because they'll be, let's say for instance, for example, say Brian Keane, whatever. So he's a massive like PT, whatever. I'm just using him because he's the first one came to my head that's like Irish, and people are like, oh yeah, he's deadly, right? Yeah. And then like, for instance, that like I put up similar content, they'd be like, fucking Egypt, who does she think she is?
Yeah.
Brian Keane. You're like, what? He got to the same place doing the same thing. Like
that's it. And often that can then come from people. I was talking to another member in the group actually. I said, oh, you should post this idea. And she's like, I almost did. And then someone with a much bigger following did something really similar, and I was so afraid that they were going to think that I'd copied them, so I can't possibly post it. I was like, this is absolute madness. Like your audience needs you. They want to hear from you. They, you know, they absolutely want to hear your version of helping them. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, or you know, if they even do think, oh, that's, you know, she's copied blah 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 person, that's on them. we're all promoting ourselves and using, you know, formulas that work and ways to engage people in conversations and help people see what it is that we do. It comes back to those stories and those beliefs. Perhaps for her there's some story of, I can't be seen to be copying, or I can't, you know, people will think less of me if I don't have original content, and so we just need to find a different reframe for that to be able to keep showing up.
But it's funny, even though, like, you know, that's literally what a trend is, everyone doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I suppose, like, you're a bit bigger. I'm not on TikTok at all, but, you know, TikTok's a great little hothouse for seeing that, for seeing that's a trend, and then everyone's jumping on the trend. I can see them when they come across to Instagram.
Yeah.
And like, that's kind of the point. And actually, I think that's a good thing. We should actually celebrate that. Like, here's my spin on it. Here's my take on it. Here's what I think, because your audience needs to hear that. They need to see that.
Yeah, I like, to be fair, sometimes I do see them like, oh, you messed that up, or it's real cringy, but I'm like, you tried.
Yeah, that's it. You were in it. That's it. You didn't have a chance to go viral if you didn't post it at all.
I'm actually not sitting on TikTok so much, but I saw something recently that like, because they're always a couple of months behind on Instagram, like at least a couple of months. But there was one the other day, she's a social media growy person, and she was like, do this trend, and it was like you just go like that, whatever, and then you point to something, whatever, and I was like, oh my god, that came out in 2020 on TikTok. Like, is that literally coming to Instagram this far back? Like, you know, I almost cringed for it, like, not because she was doing it, but I was like, that's 4 years old.
Yeah, and yet there'll be people that will do it, and there'll be people that will be brand new to, and if it really works for someone, like, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's a really easy way of getting it done, and then you'll see everyone going, Jesus, I couldn't dance. I'm like, this is not a dance. Like, I've done, when I said dance trends, I've done the most basic dance trends ever, which literally involves you pointing. I'm like, come on, if you can't do that, you've no hope on social media. Sorry.
That's it. No, and that again is a massive blocker for a lot of people, even showing their face, even talking on camera. I definitely know there's someone in the group, there's various people who are very conscious of their accents, for example, or people will judge me if I sound like that. I can't be seen to, you know, just open my mouth and talk. And I was like, wow, you know, the self-doubt that in the stories that are held in that. What if we can, you know, what else could be true here? What if you talking on camera, sharing your voice, was the reason that people do follow you? You know, the people that then know that you're distinctive and different, and, you know, want to come back and like the accent and think that that's part and adds to the appeal of your content. You know, what if that is the reality instead? So yeah, it's fascinating, the stories and beliefs we hold.
Oh, it's mad. Like, actually, the only time I've ever had any comments on my accent was people going, oh my God, I love your Irish accent. I'm like, I don't really have it. I don't consider myself to have a thick accent. I know I have one, but I was just like, oh, thanks. At least
I think when I was most aware of it was Becca Holland, Health with Holland, who's now got over 1 million followers, certainly on Instagram. I don't know where she is on TikTok, and I can remember seeing that in her comments as well, like people just saying, just here for the accent, like literally just here for the accent, just like hearing you talk. And again, just because she was unafraid to just show up, record the video, say what she wanted, you know, do that on repeat until it got noticed. So yeah, but it does require a level of interrogation if you're unable to do that, or feel afraid of doing that. What is the story? What is the belief? What are you afraid? What do you think is going to happen on the other side of just being you? Because actually that's what people are going to buy into.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is, actually, if I hear like regional Irish or a regional English accent, I'm way more likely a Scottish accent, anything like that. If I hear them, I'm going to listen quicker than if I hear an American accent. Yeah. And it's mad because I don't know what it is. It's just like, yeah, but like they're near you and they feel more relatable. Yeah. And then you hear an accent, you're like, oh, cool. Oh, look, that person's from, like, you know, Yorkshire, and I just love that accent, so I'll listen to it. Like, it's like, I think people need to worry maybe a little bit less about their accent, because that's what actually, as you said, draws people in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to ask yourself that question, like what else could be true? Is a great coaching question. What do I think is going to happen here? What am I afraid of? And what else could be true? So yes, one version is people think you're stupid because you've got a Cork accent, for example. Or what else could be true is people find it really attractive. They come back, they remember you as discernible and different and distinctive from everybody else. And like you say, a lot of people say the same thing to me. They feel like I get them because I'm lucky. I bridge, I sound like this, and I understand the UK market. I'm also live in Ireland, and people know that, and they say, you get it, you understand the market, you understand what the people are like, so actually, but people wouldn't know that of me until they listen, unless I give them an opportunity to do that, like podcasts and videos.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone who's afraid to go on camera or talk, you don't even need to talk, you can do voiceovers.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
a nice little picturesque, people are mad for them now, aren't they? Those like a video of their coffee cup and writing or whatever, but even you can read the writing.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, again, I think a lot of people do that. Haven't had my hair done, haven't got my makeup done, haven't got the right lighting. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You're right. You can just do it as a voiceover, and people then get to hear you. And that people buy from people. They want to actually have that human connection, particularly in this world of AI and, content that can be generated just through a computer. They want the story. They want the humanness. They want that connection.
Yeah. Actually, that's one thing I fall into as well, because I prefer to put makeup on when I record, and then it comes a reason not to do videos, because you're like, oh, I don't have any makeup on. So like the last week, I've like, right, you need to go on your stories and talk twice this week. You're not putting on makeup for it. So I've already done that twice. So I'm gonna keep that rolling. But again, it's just getting used to just putting my face out there. Like, it doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. And actually, it matters in the sense that you being seen and being visible actually will always get you more engagement and more conversation. A lot of people certainly complain around social media. No one's replying, no one's responding to what I've posted. I spent hours writing this caption. Right, well, why don't you just take even one small section and chat about it on stories, or broadcast it as a live video, or like you say, just do it as a voiceover and turn it into a reel instead. I can guarantee you will get twice as much response, if not more, when you actually show up and you're more visible in there, rather than hiding behind pictures and perfectly curated content.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice do you have now, just for anyone who is in that kind of any of those 4 pillars right now, or 5 P's I meant to say? What advice do you have for them in kind of maybe to move through that, like, self-belief?
Yeah, I have a little audio guide and a worksheet, which maybe we can put in the show notes to help people with this. Basically, in summary, if you are feeling like you're frozen, you're paralyzed, you are procrastinating, all of those things, really what you should be doing, but it's just not happening because that self-doubt is loud. It's really getting to the nub of, what am I afraid of? What do I think is going to happen here? And again, with the guide, I give you some questions to try and tease that out, because once we can articulate it, name it to tame it, as some people say, once you can actually be really clear on what it is that you are afraid is on the other side of taking that action, we can ladle on that compassion and say, like, that's totally understandable then, that I don't want to do that thing. That's why I'm scrolling and looking at clothes that I'm going to buy, rather than actually taking that action instead. And then for me, it's a bit like we've been talking about, the reframing. Okay, here's what I believe at the moment, here's a statement, here's what I'm afraid is going to happen. What would be more useful to think instead? How can I even just neutralize this? How can I change this into something that is not so unhelpful and I say damaging, as restrictive as what I'm thinking? So maybe you're thinking, if I post on social media, I'll be judged, for example, and that will feel painful. Okay, what can I believe instead, or what can I insert in there instead to just loosen up and tone down that the kind of grip of that statement? It doesn't have to be, every time I post videos, they go viral and everyone loves them. Like, you have to believe it, even if it's just something neutral, like people who sell their services are visible, or every time I show up, someone makes a deeper connection with me, or just something like that, where putting that in place of the unhelpful story is going to massively change how you feel, and then that naturally will have a knock-on effect as to what you do and what the results are going to be in the end. And then just trying to break it down into something like, okay, well, what with this statement, what's the first tiny doable step I can do? What can I do in 10 minutes to get the ball rolling with this?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I love that. I think that is pretty much everything I have to ask you, Vicky, but I did ask you on the last podcast, I do believe, but I'm going to ask you again anyway, because it may have changed since. But normally at the end of every podcast, I ask people the question, what is the best advice you've ever been given? So, and that reaction you've just given that no one can see is exactly why I ask it. It could be, who knows, it could be the same as last time, or it could be completely different because things change over time. But yeah, what would you say is the best advice you've ever been given?
I can't remember what I said last time, so I'll have to go and listen back.
I can't remember what you said either, but
no. The thing that comes to mind when you ask me that is, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So really coming back to, if we are feeling stuck or paralyzed in whatever we want to do in our lives or in our businesses, nothing changes if nothing changes. Like, you will have to make some kind of maybe slightly uncomfortable shift in order to see a different outcome. Otherwise, we're just going to be rinse and repeating the same old things. So yeah, I'd say that's probably been one of the phrases that really sticks with me and underlines a lot of my work.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. And everybody hates change, so
yeah.
And also, thanks for joining me today, Vicky. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, best place is my website, which is vickyshilling.com. You can find out working with me and my own podcast and my book and everything that we've talked about on there. And if you want to have the chats, then I'm most active over on Instagram. So that's vicky.shilling.
Deadly. So I just want to say thanks again for joining us. As ever, guys, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok. So it's at Strong the Saddle with an underscore at the end on Instagram. Someone beat me to it. And then TikTok, it's without the underscore. And then my website is www.chrissyhawkins.com. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.